welcome to Umber Lake. It's Raven. I've fixed up the title. Thank you for the reminder, Tetra, or else it would have been a misleading title, and I would have been reading fairy tales under the title of Spooky. Oops. But hi, everybody. I hope we're all doing well. So we're doing fairy tales again tonight. There you go. Thanks. And we're picking up where we left off in the Green Fairy book. I wanted to... Oh, where did it go? Oh no. There. I wanted to look into... I have the story recommendations and all, but for if we notice, maybe they're not here yet, but Dew on the Grass recommended a story that was with the SCP, but said that it was like a fairy tale. I'm going to just be reading my fairy tales from the fairy tale collection I've got. I'll probably do that story on another one of the spookier groups, and that can be a recovery story, maybe, if it's not spooky and it's more fairy tale. But I'd figure if it's on SCP, it's not really a fairy tale. To me, the fairy tale and folk tale, it's that it's old. That's kind of the primary thing for me. It's that it's an actually old story. I'll still do recommendations of whatever sort, but I'm starting to really like reading these weird stories in this old time and kind of just judging translations and sanitizations and just old ways of talking about the stories. Near and dear to my heart, I guess. But with that said, oh, this is what I'm forgetting. I knew I was like, this looks very empty. Why does it look so empty? Because I forgot to make sure the trigger list and title were up. There we are. But now they're there, because we will still be doing the triggers in between stories, like we did last night, and like we are doing now, even between the spooky stories, as we decided earlier today. So we'll still have those. And now it's a little less difficult to see them. People last stream like, oh, I have the other one up, so I know what the triggers are again. Sorry about that. And I will figure out the redeem so that you don't need things like that. It'll be easier that way to request, and I will eventually do that and figure out a different way to show off the menu. I'll be reorganizing my whole thing, maybe, but I don't know. My brain can't do all that today. Might not be able to do it for a little while. Oh, anybody else have a big brain fog kind of a day? I think that's me the last 2 days. A little bit foggy. A little bit froggy. I don't know. Okay, anyway. The first fairy tale I have listed, or prepped, that was you yesterday, yeah. The first story I have is called Fairy Gifts. Darn brain frogs. Yeah. It's called Fairy Gifts, so that's what we'll start with. Not that long, so you can pick out what you'd like next for the ASMR triggers, and you can always drop them even while I'm reading. I will get to them in order while we have the informal system of just chat. So, okay, here we go. Ooh. Yeah. I don't know how they work just yet either. I'll figure it out. Maybe once I know I can tell you, but like I said, I don't know. Okay. It generally happens that people's surroundings reflect more or less accurately their minds and dispositions, so perhaps that is why the flower fairy lived in a lovely place with the most delightful garden you can imagine, full of flowers and trees and fountains and fish ponds and everything nice. For the fairy herself was so kind and charming that everybody loved her, and all the young princes and princesses who formed her court were as happy as the day was long, simply because they were near her. They came to her when they were quite tiny, and never left her until they were grown up and had to go away with the great world into the great world. And when that time came, she gave to each whatever gift he asked of her. But it is chiefly the Princess Sylvia that you are going to hear now. The fairy loved her with all her heart, for she was at once original and gentle, and she had nearly reached the age at which the gifts were generally bestowed. However, the fairy had a great wish to know how the other princesses, who had grown up and left her, were prospering, and before the time came for Sylvia to go herself, she resolved to send her to some of them. So one day her chariot, drawn by butterflies, was made ready, and the fairy said, "Sylvia, I am going to send you to the court of Iris. She will receive you with pleasure for my sake as well as your own. In 2 months you may come back to me again, and I shall expect you to tell me what you think of her." Sylvia was very unwilling to go away, but as the fairy wished it, she said nothing. Only when the 2 months were over, she stepped joyfully into the butterfly chariot and could not get back quickly enough to the flower fairy, who, for her part, was equally delighted to see her again. "Now, child," said she, "tell me what impression you have received." "You sent me, madam," answered Sylvia, "to the court of Iris, on whom you had bestowed the gift of beauty. She never tells anyone, however, that it was your gift, though she often speaks of your kindness in general. It seemed to me that her loveliness, which fairly dazzled me at first, had absolutely deprived her of the use of any of her other gifts or graces. In allowing herself to be seen, she appeared to think that she was doing all that could possibly be required of her. But unfortunately, while I was still with her, she became seriously ill, and though she presently recovered, that could possibly... her beauty is entirely gone, so that she hates the very sight of herself and is in despair. She entreated me to tell you what had happened, and to beg you, in pity, to give her beauty back to her. And indeed she does need it terribly, for all the things in her that were tolerable, and even agreeable, when she was so pretty, seem quite different now she is ugly. And it is so long since she thought of using her mind or her natural cleverness that I really don't think she has any left now. She is quite aware of all this herself, so you may imagine how unhappy she is, and how earnestly she begs for your aid." What a way to live. Oh no, I am not as pretty, and so therefore I can't even use my wit. What? Okay. "You have told me what I wanted to know," cried the fairy, "but alas, I cannot help her." I think they're trying to say that the personality hadn't existed since she got beauty. Like, because she was pretty, she stopped being smart. You know, she didn't bother using that, like, flexing that muscle, and so she let it waste away, and then when the beauty went, she had nothing left. But it's like, I don't think that, but okay. "You have told me what I wanted to know," cried the fairy, "but alas, I cannot help her. My gifts can be given but once." And honestly, like, They're probably going to come back around and say that now that she was without her beauty, she slowly learned it back, or else they are stupid and they don't think that you can, like, remind yourself of who you are. But okay, we'll pretend that iris lost everything that they were. Some time passed in all the usual delights of the Flower Fairy's palace, and then she sent for Sylvia again, and told her she was to stay for a little while with the Princess Daphne, and accordingly the butterflies whisked her off and set her down in quite a strange kingdom, but she had only been there a very little time before a wandering butterfly brought a message from her to the fairy, begging that she might be sent for as soon as possible, and before very long she was allowed to return. "Ah, madam," cried she, "what a place you sent me to that time!" "Why, what was the matter?" asked the fairy. "Daphne was one of the princesses who asked for the gift of eloquence, if I remember rightly." "And very ill the gift of eloquence becomes a woman," replied Sylvia with an air of conviction. It is true that she speaks well, and her expressions are well chosen, but then she never leaves off talking, and though at first one may be amused, one ends by wearied to death. Above all things, she loves any assembly for settling the affairs of her kingdoms, for on those occasions she can talk and talk without fear of interruption, but even then, the moment it is over, she is ready to begin again without anything or nothing, as the case may be. Oh, how glad I was to come away, I cannot tell you." So, talking is just not well suited to a woman. Like, if she had said, "Oh, she talks too much," without the specifically because she's a woman, maybe I'd give you that. But also, eloquence isn't just being able to talk, it's being able to say it succinctly. At least to me, that's what eloquence is. You say it well, thoroughly. You don't have to say it in a long, drawn-out way. Something eloquent is simple. And I didn't say that very eloquently because I said it a bunch of times and wasn't sure what I was saying. The fairy smiled at Sylvia's unfeigned disgust at her late experience, but after allowing her a little time to recover, she sent her to the court of the Princess Cynthia, where she left her for 3 months. At the end of that time, Sylvia came back to her with all the joy and contentment that one feels at being once more beside a dear friend. The fairy, as usual, was anxious to hear what she thought of Cynthia, who had always been amiable, and to whom she had given the gift of pleasing. "I thought at first," said Sylvia, "that she must be the happiest princess in the world. She had 1,000 lovers who vied with one another in their efforts to please and gratify her. Indeed, I had nearly decided that I would ask for a similar gift." "Have you altered your mind, then?" interrupted the fairy. "Yes, indeed, madam," replied Sylvia, "and I will tell you why. The longer I stayed, the more I saw that Cynthia was not really happy. In her desire to please everyone, she ceased to be sincere, and degenerated into a mere coquette, and even her lovers felt that the charms and fascinations which were exercised upon all who approached her without distinction were valueless, so that in the end they ceased to care for them and went away disdainfully. I'm not terribly against this particular thing. If you're only ever trying to please people, it becomes very hollow. I am pleased with you, child," said the fairy. "Enjoy yourself here for a while, and presently you shall go to Phillida. I'll say Phillida." Sylvia was glad to have leisure to think, for she could not make up her mind at all what she should ask for herself, and the time was drawing very near. However, before very long, the fairy sent her to Phillida, and waited for her report with unabated interest. "I reached her court safely," said Sylvia, "and she received me with much kindness, and immediately began to exercise upon me that brilliant wit which you had bestowed upon her. I confess that I was fascinated by it, and for a week thought that nothing could be more desirable. The time passed like magic, so great was the charm of her society. But I ended by ceasing to covet that gift more than any of the others I have seen, for like the gift of pleasing, it cannot really give satisfaction. By degrees I wearied of what had so delighted me at first, as I perceived more and more plainly that it is impossible to be constantly smart and amusing, without being frequently ill-natured, and too apt to turn all things, even the most serious, into mere occasions for a brilliant jest. I'll support some of that too. The fairy in her heart agreed with Sylvia's conclusions, and felt pleased with herself for having brought her up so well. But now the time was come for Sylvia to receive her gift, and all her companions were assembled. The fairy stood in the midst, and in the usual manner asked what she would take with her into the great world. I don't know if I like this one. It's an odd choice. And based on the woman note before, I have a feeling it's stemming from that. Sylvia paused for a moment and then answered, "A quiet spirit," and the fairy granted her request. This lovely gift makes life a constant happiness to its possessor, and to all who are brought into contact with her. She has all the beauty of gentleness and contentment in her sweet face, and if at times it seems less lovely through some chance grief or disquietude, the hardest thing that one ever hears said is, "Sylvia's dear face is pale today, it grieves one to see her so." And when, on the contrary, she is gay and joyful, the sunshine of her presence rejoices all who have the happiness of being near her. The end. I mean, it's a something. But that's the end of that story. So I will pull that away, and I'll wait just a second for your requests. Sorry, that took a second. I had quickly muted the mic and then it wouldn't come back on. Yes, I am making that face a whole bunch. Do we need to make our own frog that makes pops like that? Little poppin' faces. I can't keep up with some of them. They're all at different rates, though. That's cute. What do we have next? Ah, what happened to this? That's not what that's supposed to say. I had the thing up and I thought that it was visible, but it wasn't. Sad. Oh yes, okay, let's do singing bowl. Here we are. Just a second. No. Let's make it a smoother start, please. It's so nice of you to be saying that I do that well, because I thought I was very uneven today. I had that aggressive start that I tried to do. Yeah. I actually got... I don't like to give out really personal information. I know it doesn't sound like it's all so personal, but here I will say this. When I got this singing bowl, it is a Tibetan singing bowl. It has the writings on it, and I got it in Hawaii. And the shopkeeper actually showed us a lot of stuff, other customers, exactly how to do it. And my mallet, you know, there's the wooden end and the felt end, and the felt end is probably a little bit worn out, so maybe I can blame a little bit of it being a bit off on that. But very specifically how to start it. You can do the big ding and go, but oh, and I forgot to turn my computer off, but we didn't have any other noises interrupt yet. Welcome, thank you for the follow. Anyway, the move is that you have to have a good deal of pressure on it, and you have to have a good deal of balance to make sure that it stays put while you're doing it. And because I was holding it close to the mic, and I was trying to lean back for my comfort, it was a little bit, you know, off. So I was a little bit less smooth, but yeah, it's just really smooth wrist motion, even pressure that you have to get. Maybe once I do the hand cams you can see it, because it is pretty. And it's got a very cute little pillow it sits on that I brought with me home too, so I'm excited. Well, I can try and do it again. I'm not mad about that, but we do have a request for humming. So I was thinking, anybody heard anyone else? Maybe other people haven't kind of been guided with it. They've just been given the bowl or they've ordered it, something like that. I lucked out. That same shopkeep actually gave me, like I had this wrap thing that could, you use this hole on the wrap, use this hole on the wrap, and you pull the string bit here, and you can be a skirt and a dress and a this and a that. And so, like, they guided me well through all of these different things. And I have photos of a little younger me getting guided by this shopkeeper person. It's very cute, but there were so many cool things in that shop. I really liked it. Yeah, they were really helpful and guiding. I think we had a semi-unique experience, the group I was with, because I was staying with a family friend that lived on the west side of that island. I don't want to get too specific. And like a little area, and there was lots of like specifically us west side and us in this little area. It was definitely out of the big way, and it was locals specific, and there was local kind of keywords and supports like that. And so we showed up in one of these smaller places and got kind of that insider, because there is so much commercial stuff going on there. And I mean, more recent years, it's a bigger deal that the tourism and the people wanting to move there and buy stuff is kind of pushing locals out. So Native Hawaiians, they can't really actually live there anymore. But while I was there, it was still just a little bit of that where they were like, oh yeah, as long as we got the locals, heck yes. But yeah, so that's why I got all those extra super helpful stuffs. But alright, how about some humming? Or actually, I'll do the bowl one more time while I've got the sign up, and then I'll do humming. The story I read so far was called Fairy Gifts. And we're gonna do just the green fairy book stuff that we've been reading for now. Alright, hold on. Singing bowl again. Yeah, that time I had a really strong handle on that one. I could control when it was going louder and quieter fully that time. But there you go, there was the singing bowl again. Yeah, hey, heck yeah, why not, Tetra? That might be helpful. I'm gonna be snooping around all in it. Probably I'll end up doing that Friday or maybe next week. Friday. My schedule's bounced around and moved and turned inside out, and I don't know what's gonna happen. We'll see. Just order of things. But there you go. That's singing bowl. There you go. Discord. Humming was requested next. There we go. I'll interrupt my little voice. I'm sorry that it gives you headaches sometimes. I hope I'm not, but the ringing can be a lot when it's really loud. Yeah. It's the biggest reason why I want to make sure I have titles on things visibly for different sounds, so that if it is something you know is upsetting or physically hurtful, yeah, so that you can run away. Glad you liked singing. Strangely, I hope I can sing well and stuff. I'm trying to do vocal performance of various sorts. Voice acting and singing would be good, but actually this song is something that somebody taught me as a vocal warm-up. There's lots of really dumb vocal warm-ups, like, why shouldn't my goose sing as well as thy goose? Oh geez, I can't sing. I know that one is particularly bad because there's a point where you say the goose bit like super high and it's like completely against the rest of it. But this one, I'll sing the words this time. It's just a dumb little song, but it's very cute. And it has argued different lyrics because there's my or thy that you can choose which pronoun, but I'll say it in the way that we were first taught it. Rose, 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 will I ever see thee wed? I will marry at thy will, sire, at thy will. Well, I'm keeping my voice very low. It's harder to sing it like this. I'm supposed to sing it big and loud. But humming it, I feel comfortable going into the lower register and bigger. It's a very fun one. But I'll keep going with more humming for other stuff. Hello, everybody. Okay. sometimes hard to remember because they're so ridiculous. I'll try and sing the goose one. That's it. See, as soon as I just went for the tune, I can do it like without thinking. But now imagine it's in your full voice, and you go into that high, and it's like like it's supposed to be. You're supposed to just like go wacky on that goose, and it's freaking weird. It's supposed to be all the little ones that sound good in a round, you know? Basically, if we got a whole pack of us all singing in a room, and we divided us up, okay, now you start, and then you start, and then you go, and then you go, and it's really silly. Well, in a group, it's not as noticeable when you sound really weird, but it does also mean that if it's in a round, you've got 4 teams, like, you know, okay, altos, okay, sopranos, okay, tenors, and all of that. You, Sorry, I was going to say hi, Ghosty, but now you pointed it out extra. Oh, thank you for the subscription there. It's a whole moment when you hear the goose, then goose, 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 and you're just surrounded by people kind of screeching the word goose. It's weird. Yes, we need to all sing together, but the problem is that it's most effective when we're all in a room together. I've done it with adults, but then I've tried to teach kids sometimes with this kind of a thing. And then you pull the one at a time into the middle to hear as everybody around them is singing at different times, and it sounds so cool, and they're all like, oh my gosh, my mind is blown. But when you do it with a goose one, you're like, oh god, what is happening? Is there goose? They're geese. The geese, they're gonna get me. It's really weird. What's another one? I don't remember the other ones. I'm chatting through my ASMR stuff. What am I doing? What did they do? Oh, Lottie gifted the sub. I didn't even notice. I just saw that happen. Lottie, thank you. That's so nice of you. Look at that. Yeah, well, this whole group is very nice. The whole ASMR little teams. Everybody's so very nice. We made this particular emote for Death Noah, who used to gift subs a whole heckin' bunch for no need. But, I guess this fits for Lottie. You rain the money down. Money, money, money. Cage, thank you for being on the same page as me there. Everybody else was sending the monies now. Okay. I'll sing just a little, like a hum a little bit more, and then I'll move on to either a story or another trigger request, whoever beats me to whatever request first. We had made this emote for the next time that Death Noah did this, and then Death Noah didn't really do it again yet. We sent one to him, I think. Yeah, okay. Tell me which one you want. Story or another trigger. Okay. Don't go spilling all the secrets, Vet. Yes, I literally have a doc list like of them so that I don't forget them because I tend to do that. Okay, I will remove it. Okay, no more humming. I got no more requests, so I'm assuming I do story. More frog, always more frogs. You're a doom master. Yes, you will. But when? But why? Why are we being a little pest bot? Oh, a cheeky little rat. So you just, oh, let me add that. Literal. Yeah. Yes. Although, animation. Animation. It sounds like a nation of animation. Or anonymity, you know. Oh, okay. Anonymity. Animation. Or oh, what did I do? I'm trying to go to the next story. Where did I go? Okay. That's one that we had read. This is the one we want. Ooh. This is a very, very dense paragraph story. I'm expecting to get lost a lot with all of my brain frog, as I referred to it before. I have brain foggy. So, I apologize. I'm sorry, but we're going to do this. Oh, that's the Latin thing that everybody posts into things, right? I'm tempted. The thing is, I will mispronounce so many ways, I'm sure. Unless that's what you want to hear, the people mispronouncing. Turtle, no, you're not too late. But I have not read your story because I think I'll keep, I think it was you. Unless I've maybe I need to double check here. No, it was dew. No? Yeah, it was dew on the grass. I did read your story. I read rats. I did that. Okay, I mixed people up. I was not going to read dews yet for the thing. Ooh, turtles never late. Yeah, it's for testing prints and books. Just random Latin words in their website that would generate for you. Am I only reading your stories? For my fairy tale stuff, I was gonna keep to folktale fairy tale. If you have a link to a different folktale fairy tale, I'll allow it. But I want to keep with this very specific oldie vibe. You know, the same sort of stuff that Disney in the 40s would consider making a movie out of. That's what we're after. Sorry, you don't like to watch 7 streams at once? But, yeah, I mean, we'll still keep doing all the recommended ones, just another time. Yeah, these old stories, they can be such a thing. And honestly, as we found out, someone was like, your humor is showing with one of the, with Rosanella. For all the times that they say gay, but they don't mean queer, they mean happy. And so they're very fun. I like saying it, and just, even if I don't giggle at it, I have a little thought in my head of, they're being gay. Anyway, I'm sorry. They do always have some interesting logic, it's very true. Okay, where am I going? This is Prince Narcissus and the Princess Potentilla? I'm not sure how I'm going to say. Potentilla. We'll say Potentilla. That's what we'll say her name is. You got it, Tetra. That's a great way. Oh, we love wordplay too here. Okay. I need 2 hands for this. There's too complicated names. Hold on. Yes. Princesses. Okay, good. Why did that do that? This is what we want. Alright. Well, then, as much as it is grim, I mean, technically this is from Andrew Lang. He has the color-coded fairy books. The blue and the green, and I think there's a red after and stuff. Whatever. But it's just as ridiculous. This particular set was published in 1892. And lots of different authors within it, but collected by Andrew Lang, so not the Grimm's brothers. Oh, okay, before I start the story, I'm glad I caught this. The ad would be running in 10 minutes, and I know that my snoozes only buy me 15, and this is a chonky thing. So I'm gonna run an ad to try and buy us a little bit more time. It's just 30 seconds, and I think most, if not all of you, are you're subscribed, I think. But anyway, I'm gonna run the ad so that it doesn't interrupt us. Do the thing. Okay. Oh, I think every time I hear that deck the halls around Christmas, don we now our gay apparel. Yes, I love it. The gay Christmas stuffs. Those like dumb little like, oh no, the nutcrackers are gay. I'm like, that's the best way. They're nutcrackers. Why do you don't think that's already a little bit? No? Okay, fine. Their whole job is to put nuts in their mouths or their bellies. Fat! I need him! Look at that gay little bat! Oh my god! Okay, so now we need a very, very gay frog. Scribble. I'm telling you, Fetster, instead of sending it to you, that is primary. That is our mission 1. We need that before anything else. We have the little rainbow. Yes, okay. He's like, oh wow, that's good. That's something. But no, we need a frog on his way to the Pride Parade. Okay. Thoroughly distracted, and our ad is done, so I shouldn't be interrupting, but I'm so distracted now. A gay world, I like it. It's fun. Not want, but need. Yes. Oh my goodness. To be fair, I say all of this partially because I did catch a glimpse of a few sentences that are gonna be very gay as well. But yeah. So you got the second one of those wings. Well, they're great. I want to copy them, essentially, but we need a feasible reason for the frog to have them. We'll figure it out. Okay, I need to stop. I need to focus. Okay. Prince Narcissus and the Princess Potentilla. And yes, I'm likely to lose my place a bunch, so I'm just reconfiguring so that I can maybe make it easier on myself. This is going to be hectic. Alright. Once upon a time, there lived a king and queen who, though it is very long while since they died, were much in the same in their tastes and pursuits as people nowadays. So they gay? No, sorry. Hi, cowboy. Sorry, no, I should say this again. Hi. Okay. Kapow. Boom. Why are you blowing up the world, turtle boy? Don't do that. Oh, you're blowing it up to make it gay? Oh, well, okay. Where am I? We're reading stories, I promise. Oh, thank you for the follow. But I'm very distracted. Okay. It's a gay nuke. Is it a gay nuke? It is. It do have rainbow. And it is be smiling. It's a smiley. It be gay. Okay? Okay. Oh my goodness. right. The king, who was called Cloverleaf, fun name, liked hunting better than anything else. Oh, thought you know everything blew up. Why did everything blow up? That is a heckin' fun animation. Oh my gosh. Okay. Cloverleaf liked hunting better than anything else, but he nevertheless bestowed much care upon his kingdom as he felt equal to. That is to say, he never made an end of folding and unfolding the state documents. So that's he spent very much time working on his kingdom, but he never bothered with folding documents. He doesn't care about that. As to the queen, everybody's blowing everything up. We need to have just creation, not destruction, of our gay fun. We're talking about creating an emote, not destroying everything. Okay, what am I doing? The queen, she had once been a very pretty, and she liked to believe that she was so still, which is, of course, always made quite easy for queens. Her name was Frivola. Frivola and Cloverleaf, what a couple. Why is there such chaos over there? Oh, you guys are all running from the nuke. I just realized. Okay. It's all the destruction you're running from. There you go. Okay. Can we not have just a moment of happiness for our stories? We have to blow everything up. It's okay. I directly requested some chaotic stuff. Thank you, Fetster. Yeah. Okay. And her one occupation in life was oh my gosh, you guys. The one occupation in life was the pursuit of amusement. Balls. Also masquerades, but they specify masquerades right after balls, so it does sound like because those things are supposed to be the same thing. What does she mean by balls? Okay. What is that little emote? Fire frog? Or to the balls? I don't know. What are you referring to? Her one occupation in life was the pursuit of amusement, balls, masquerades, and picnics. Balls, masquerades, and picnics followed one another in rapid succession, as fast as she could arrange them. And you may imagine that under these circumstances the kingdom was somewhat neglected. As a matter of fact, if anyone had a fancy for a town or province, he helped himself to it. But as long as the king had his horses and dogs, and the queen her musicians and her actors, they did not trouble themselves about the matter. King Cloverleaf and Queen Frivola had but one child, and this princess had from her very babyhood been so beautiful that by the time she was 4 years old, the queen was desperately jealous of her. Oh no. And so fearful that when she was grown up, that she would be more admired than herself, that she resolved to keep her hidden away out of sight. To this end she caused a little house to be built not far beyond the palace gardens on the bank of a river. This was surrounded by a high wall, and in it the charming Potentilla was imprisoned. Her nurse, who was dumb, took care of her. Oh great, she's got a stupid nurse. I think in this case they mean she didn't speak. But, we'll find out what kind of dumb they meant. Nurse took care of her, and the necessities of life were conveyed to her through a little window in the wall, while guards were always pacing to and fro outside, with orders to cut off the head of anyone who tried to approach. Oh, geez. Which they would certainly have done without thinking twice about it. Yikes. The queen told everyone, with much pretended sorrow, that the princess was so ugly and so troublesome, and altogether so impossible to love, that to keep her out of sight was the only thing that could be done for her. Jesus. This is one of those olden-style fairy tale logic things that you just get mad at. Oh no, she's ugly. We have to hide her. Motherfucker, what is wrong with you? Just love your goddamn child. But it is a story, so it's pretend, it's fine. It's not like it happened, except it totally happened to people then. Anyway, and this tale, that she was too ugly, this tale she repeated so often that at last the whole court believed it. Things were in this state, and the princess was about 15 years old, while Prince Narcissus, attracted by the report of Queen Frivola's gay doings, so he's here for gay things, presented himself at the court. He was not much older than the princess, and was as handsome a prince as you would see in a day's journey, and really, for his age, not so very scatterbrained. So he's not that bad. He's not that difficult for his age, and he's the prettiest you'll find within a day's journey. So you can find prettier, but I mean, for a small town, he's the hottest one here. That's what I'm getting. Okay, here we go. His parents were a king and queen, whose story you will perhaps read some day. They died almost at the same time. Have we read Prince Narcissus somewhere? Because I thought we had read like one where it was just chock full of a bunch of Greek names and stuff. And I mean, it is Narcissus, but I don't think it was that one. I don't know if that story got mixed in. Anyway. We'll find out if there's a Prince Narcissus story that we haven't read. They died, the king and queen there, they died almost at the same time, leaving their kingdom to the eldest of their children, and commending their youngest son, Prince Narcissus, to the care of the fairy Melinette. Yeah, fair enough. Evidently, I don't remember either. In this, they did very well for him, for the fairy was as kind as she was powerful, and she spared no pains in teaching the little prince everything it was good for him to know, and even imparted to him some of her own fairy lore. But as soon as he was grown up, she sent him out to see the world for himself, though all the time she was secretly keeping watching over him, ready to help him in any time of need. Before he started, she gave him a ring which would render him invisible when he put it on his finger. What? A fairy gave you a ring that brings invisibility? Unheard of. These rings seem to be quite common. Oh, well, you must often have heard of them, even if you have never seen one. Okay, how does this 1890 story know that we know about invisible rings? Because, wow. Okay. It was in the course of the prince's wanderings, in search of experience of men and things. He was looking for experience of men. He really was here for that gay shit. Okay. That he came to the court of Queen Frivola, where he was extremely well received. The queen was delighted with him. So were all her ladies, and the king was very polite to him, though he did not quite see why the whole court was making such a fuss over him. Yeah, the king just wants to go back to hunting. He doesn't know what's going on. One ring to rule them all, my precious. Yes. Y'all didn't. He just didn't at all give love to my little gay jokes. Fine. Whatever. Okay. Prince Narcissus enjoyed all that went on and found the time passed very pleasantly. Before long, of course, he heard the story about Princess Potentilla, and as it had by that time been repeated many times and had been added to here and there, she was represented as such a monster of ugliness that he was really quite curious to see her, and resolved to avail himself of the magic power of his ring to accomplish this design. You're like half here? Oh, it's fine. Well then, fine. I'll repeat it, but I have to remember where I was. He's gonna make himself invisible. The sentence I have to find again is, so he made himself invisible. Okay. So he was attracted by the report of Queen Frivola's gay doings. That's how we first found out he's attracted by the gay things. Step 1. He's attracted by the gay things. And then, step 2, the fairy that Prince Narcissus was in charge of, that was looking after him, she sent him out, and then it says, it was in the course of the prince's wandering in search of experience of men and things. So he's looking for experience with men, and he is attracted by the queen's gay doings. There you go. Oh, thank you, Cage. I just find joy in when the stories don't realize just how much it implies the things. Okay, where were we again? He made himself invisible. That's what it was. Okay, so he made himself invisible and passed the guard without there so much as suspecting that anyone was near. Thank you for the eyebrows there, guys. Yes, thank you. He passed the guard without there so much as suspecting that anyone was near. Climbing the wall was rather a difficulty, but when he at length found himself inside, he was charmed with the peaceful beauty of the little domain it enclosed, and still more delighted when he perceived a slender, lovely maiden wandering among the flowers. It was not until he had sought vainly for the imaginary monster that he realized that this was the princess herself, and by that time he was deeply in love with her. Oh, yay. Okay. For indeed it would have been hard to find anyone prettier than Potentilla. As she sat by the brook, weaving a garland of blue forget-me-nots to her crown, her waving golden locks, or to imagine anything more gentle than the way she tended all the birds and beasts who inhabited her small kingdom, and who all loved and followed her. Prince Narcissus watched her every movement, and hovered near her in a dream of delight, not daring as yet to appear to her, so humble had he suddenly become in her presence. And when evening came, and the nurse fetched the princess into her little house, he felt obliged to go back to Frivolous Palace, for fear his absence should be noted, and someone would discover his new treasure. But he forgot that to go back, absent and dreamy and indifferent, when he had before been gay and ardent about everything, was the surest way of awakening suspicion. And when, in response to the jesting questions which were put to him upon the subject, he only blushed and returned evasive answers, all the ladies were certain that he had lost his heart, and did their utmost to discover who was the happy possessor of it. As to the prince, he was becoming day by day more attached to Potentilla, and his one thought was to attend her, always invisible, and help her in everything she did, and provide her with everything that could possibly amuse or please her. And the princess, who had learnt to find diversion in very small things in her quiet life, was in continual state of delight over the treasures which the prince constantly laid where she must find them. Then Narcissus implored his faithful friend Melinette, the fairy, to send the princess such dreams of him as should make her recognize him as a friend when he actually appeared before her eyes. And this device was so successful that the princess quite dreaded the cessation of these amusing dreams, in which a certain Prince Narcissus was such a delightful lover and companion. Oh geez, how explicit were the dreams. After that he went a step further and began to have long talks with the princess, still, however, keeping himself invisible, until she begged him so earnestly to appear to her that he could no longer resist. I'm wondering, extra spicy, I'm wondering then if she had that moment of he just spoke while he was invisible. What was that second? I wanted to see that. Come on, story writers. When did he first hey, don't freak out. Oh my god, where's this voice coming from? Anyway, but fine. Like, did she, in this world, so often the, like, animals or even objects speak, that, like, what if she thought, like, a flower was talking to her or something? Anyway. Oh, she begged him, making a promise. Oh, no. Begged him earnestly to appear to her that no go around, and after making her promise that no matter what he was like, she would still love him, he drew the ring from his finger, and the princess saw with delight that he was as handsome as he was agreeable. He just leaves notes around, your secret admirer. Oh, maybe. Now, indeed, they were perfectly happy, and they passed the whole long summer day in Potentilla's favorite place by the brook, and when at last Prince Narcissus had to leave her, it seemed to them both that the hours had gone by with the most amazing swiftness. The princess stayed where she was, dreaming of her delightful prince, and nothing could have been further from her thoughts than any trouble or misfortune, when suddenly, in a cloud of dust and shavings, by came the enchanter Grumedan, and unluckily he chanced to catch sight of Potentilla. Down he came straightway and alighted at her feet, and one look at her charming blue eyes and smiling lips quite decided him that he must appear to her at once, though he was rather annoyed to remember that he had only his second best cloak. Okay, random man drops in. I don't know what's going on with this guy. But Grumedan randomly enters, and he's like, oh, this one. The princess sprang to her feet with a cry of terror at this sudden apparition, for really the enchanter was no beauty. So Grumedan is also ugly. To begin with, he was very big and clumsy, but he had one eye. Oh no, and his teeth were long, and he stammered badly. Nevertheless, he had an excellent opinion of himself, and mistook the princess's cry of terror for an exclamation of delighted surprise. So he's a cocky one too, okay. After pausing a moment to give her time to admire him, the enchanter made her the most complimentary speech he could invent, which, however, did not please her at all, though he was extremely delighted with himself. Poor Potentilla only shuddered and cried, "Oh, where is my Narcissus?" To which he replied with a self-satisfied chuckle, "You want a Narcissus, madam? Well, they are not rare. You shall have as many as you like." Whereupon he waved his hand, and the princess found herself surrounded and half buried in the fragrant flowers. Of course, we get a classic misunderstanding. Lovely. Actually, kind of really like those tropes. She would certainly have betrayed that this was not the kind of Narcissus she wanted, but for the fairy Melinette, who had been anxiously watching the interview, and now thought it quite time to interfere. Assuming the prince's voice, she whispered in Potentilla's ear, "We are menaced by a great danger, but my only fear is for you, my princess. Therefore, I beg you to hide what you really feel, and we will hope that some way out of the difficulty may present itself." Okay, thank you, fairy lady. We're gonna get out of this. The princess was much agitated by this speech, and feared lest the enchanter should have overheard it, but he had been loudly calling her attention to the flowers and chuckling over his own smartness in getting them for her, so no worries there. And it was rather a blow to him when she said suddenly, "Oh, rather, excuse me, sorry, It was rather a blow to him when she said very coldly that they were not the sort she preferred, and she would be glad if he would send them all away. This he did, but afterwards wished to kiss this princess's hand as reward for having been so obliging. But the fairy Melinette was not going to allow anything of that kind. She appeared suddenly in all her splendor and cried, "Stay, Grumedan. This princess is under my protection, and the smallest impertinence will cost you 1,000 years of captivity. If you can win Potentilla's heart by the ordinary methods, I cannot oppose you, but I warn you that I will not put up with any of your usual tricks." This declaration was not at all to the enchanter's taste, but he knew that there was no help for it, and that he would have to behave well, and pay the princess all the delicate attentions he could think of, though they were not at all the sort of thing he was used to. So, our fairy lady knows this awful enchanter man, and he usually is a manipulative dude, whatever sort of manipulations he usually does. Though it kind of implies that he was just going to grab her hand and be kissy and physical immediately. Okay, however, he decided that to win such a beauty, it was quite worthwhile, and Melinette, feeling that she could now leave the princess in safety, no, you cannot, hurried off to tell the Prince Narcissus what was going forward. Of course, at the very mention of the enchanter as a rival, he was furious, and I don't know what foolish things he would have done if Melinette had not been there to calm him down. She represented to him what a powerful enchanter Grumedan was, and how, if he were provoked, he might avenge himself upon the princess, since he was the most unjust and churlish of all the enchanters, and had often before he had to be punished by the Fairy Queen for some of his ill deeds. So yeah, he really has been unfortunate. Once he had been imprisoned in a tree, and was only released when it was blown down by a furious wind. Another time he was condemned to stay under a big stone at the bottom of a river, until by some chance the stone should be turned over. Oh no, look at all these people. Hello. Where are you reading from? Hi. Wow, look at all these peoples. Oh, yes, welcome them to Emerald Lake, Frogs. Hello, Aisha Spades. Everything moved very quickly. Okay, let's shout. Wow. Snowball raid. You guys are snowballs? That's so cute. We are frogs. We are primarily frogs. And right now we are reading Fairytales tonight. Oh yes, and now you can see the hugs. So, if anybody wants to go ahead and hug our new friends, you can do that. You are the widow snowballs. Hello. Okay, I'll let you guys keep coming in. How am I today? I'm alright. My voice, I keep getting stuck. A little bit brain fog, but yeah. Hugs to everyone, please. Snowball raid. Still coming in. Well, we're reading an interesting story. We're halfway through, I think it is, or more. And it's a something, but if you guys are all here, I'll keep going. Basically, we have a king and queen, Cloverleaf and Frivola, who had a daughter named Potentilla. And the queen really cares about her beauty, the king cares about hunting, but they realized Potentilla was pretty pretty. And so the queen locked her away and said to everyone, "Oh, she's just too ugly to be around, so don't mind her." Turtle boy, thank you. That's very nice to gift that out. And so the princess is kept in her own little mini world with a wall and guards and all this stuff. But here we have Prince Narcissus, who was raised by a fairy with an invisible ring. Woohoo! And he uses the invisible ring to get his booty over the wall. Sees the princess, falls in love, and she sees him back. And yeah, that looks like it's gonna go well. But just as he leaves, bad guy enchanter dude pops in. And the fairy godmother, literally, of the prince is like, whoa, I don't like this guy. Gonna have to step in here. And she tries to, like, secretly tell the princess, like, hey, don't tell him shit. Just try and get rid of him. And she's like, what is going on? I don't like this. Everybody just get out. And it doesn't quite work. But anyway, Fairy Lady says, Fairy Lady knows that this guy is really, really bad business. She warns him, hey, you're going to have to go about this the right way. Don't do your usual tricks, or else I'm going to punish you. And we're just in the middle of kind of saying about what goes on there. Yeah, feel free to lurk. No worries. So, once he had been imprisoned in a tree. Grumedan is the bad guy's name. Once he had been imprisoned in a tree and was only released when it was blown over by a furious wind. Another time, he was condemned to stay under a big stone at the bottom of a river, until by some chance the stone should be turned over, but nothing could ever really improve him. The fairy finally made Narcissus, that's our prince guy that we like, promise that he would remain invisible when he was with the princess, since she felt sure that this would make things easier for all of them, because if the bad guy enchanter dude saw this, well, he'd get real competitive and turn into even more of an asshole. Okay. Then began a struggle between Grumedan and the prince. The latter, under the name of Melinette, that's the fairy that we like, as to which could best delight and divert the princess and win her approbation. Thank you for hellos, everybody. Hi. And so, yes, now they're fighting. Prince Narcissus first made friends with all the birds in Potentilla's little domain, and taught them to sing her name and her praises with all their sweetest trills and most touching melodies, and all day long to tell her how dearly he loved her. Grumedan, thereupon, declared that there was nothing new about that, since the birds had sung since the world began, and all lovers had imagined that they sang for them alone. Therefore he said he would himself write an opera that should be absolutely a novelty and something worth hearing. When the time came for the performance, which lasted 5 weary hours, the princess found to her dismay that the opera consisted of this more than indifferent verse, chanted with all their mighty by 10,000 frogs. Hey, 10,000 frogs! But anyway, they all say this. Admiral Potentilla, do you think it kind or wise, in this sudden way, to kill a poor enchanter with your eyes? Because the enchanter is pretty narcissistic, which is kind of funny, since the prince is Narcissus. Hee hee. But okay, keep lurking, Cage. We'll still love you over here. Alright. Really, if Narcissus had not been there to whisper in her ear and divert her attention, I don't know what would have become of poor Potentilla, for though the first repetition of this absurdity amused her faintly, she nearly died of weariness before the time was over. Still the peoples are coming in. This is crazy. Hee-hees, hellos. Alright, wow. 465 Jupiter, don't you worry about it. Oh, and thank you for the follow. Thank you all of you that have followed. I know that my followers have jumped a little bit. Okay, luckily, Grumedan did not perceive this. Oh yes, or else he would have been a right proper asshole. Anyway, as he was too much occupied in whipping up the frogs, many of whom perished miserably from fatigue. Okay, we really don't like Grumedan. He's killing frogs out here. Ugh. Since he did not allow them to rest for a moment. Gotta let your frogs sleep, bruh. The prince's next idea for Potentilla's amusement was to cause a fleet of boats, exactly like those of Cleopatra, of which you have doubtless read in history. Wow, this story's calling us out. To come up the little river, and upon the most gorgeously decorated of these reclined the great queen herself. Whoa, actual Cleopatra supposedly in this story? No way. Okay. Let's stir you one of them. good use. The queen with herself, who, as soon as she reached the place where Potentilla sat in rapt attention, stepped majestically on shore and presented the princess with that celebrated pearl of which you have heard so much, saying, "You are more beautiful than I ever was. Let my example warn you to make a better use of your beauty." Oh, wow, geez, oh my god. Yes, it's like a celebrity guest star. It really is. Our fairy tale has a celebrity guest star. Total name dropping. And then the little fleet sailed on. Yeah, it does continuously make assumptions about what we know. I'm sorry, I didn't really do history class. Oops. Anyway. And then the fleet sailed on until it was lost to view in the windings of the river. Grumedan was also looking on at the spectacle and said very contemptuously, "I cannot say I think these marionettes amusing." Marionettes? My dude. What a to-do to make over a single pearl. But if you like pearls, madam, why, I will soon gratify you. I just know he's gonna do something bullshit. So saying, he drew a whistle from his pocket, and no sooner had he blown it than the princess saw the water of the river bubble and grow muddy, and in another instant up came hundreds of thousands of great oysters, who climbed slowly and laboriously towards her and laid at her feet all the pearls they contained. "Those are what I call pearls," cried Grumedan in high glee. And truly there were enough of them to pave every path in Potentilla's garden and leave some to spare. To be fair, she's got a very teeny tiny kingdom because it's, her little walled off section. But anyway, the next day Prince Narcissus had prepared for the princess's pleasure a charming arbor of leafy branches, with couches of moss and grassy floor, and garlands everywhere, with her name written in different colored blossoms, where he caused a dainty little banquet to be set forth, while hidden musicians played softly, and the silvery fountains plashed down into their marble basins. And when presently the music stopped, a single nightingale broke the stillness with his delicious chant. Oh my goodness, this sounds gorgeous. Like, honestly, Narcissus's gifts versus Grumedan, it's like the men in book talk books, versus the men that listen to like Joe Rogan and Andrew Tate that do all the spectacle. This guy's thinking he's doing all the cool stuff, but like, dude, sometimes you're not really doing this stuff. You nearly killed the princess with boredom with that opera, and you did kill a bunch of frogs. Nobody wanted that. Okay. Cried the princess, recognizing the voice of one of her favorites. "Philomel, my sweet love, who taught you that new song?" 'Cause she knows all the frickin' birds. And he, the bird, answered, "Love, my princess." Oh, that's cute. Meanwhile, the enchanter was very ill pleased with the entertainment, which he declared was dullness itself. "You don't seem to have any idea in these parts beyond little squeaking birds, and fancy giving," said he, "and fancy giving a banquet without so much as an ounce of plate." So, there's no food. So the next day when the princess went out into her garden, there stood a summer house built of solid gold, decorated within and without with her initials and the enchanter's combined. Presumptuous. And in it was spread an enormous repast, while the tables so glittered with golden cups and plates, awns and dishes, candlesticks, and 100 other things beside, that it was hardly possible to look steadily at it. The enchanter ate like 6 ogres. Oh, I read it as like he ate about 6 ogres. No, but he ate as if he were 6 ogres. But the princess could not touch a morsel. Presently, Grumedan remarked with a grin, "I have provided neither musicians nor singers, But as you seem fond of music, I will sing to you myself. Oh no. Whereupon he began, with a voice like a screech owl's, to chant the words of his opera, as in quotes. Only this time happily, not at such a length, and without the frog accompaniment, so not as good. Only thing this he ate like 6 hours. Sorry, I should have known. Only thing this guy can enchant is a woman, obviously. After this, the prince again asked the aid of his friends the birds, and when they had assembled from all the country round, he tied about the neck of each one a tiny lamp of some bright color, and when darkness fell, he made them go through 100 little pretty tricks before the delighted Potentilla, who clapped her little hands with delight when she saw her own name traced in points of light against the dark trees, or when the whole flock of sparks grouped themselves into bouquets of different colors, like living flowers. Grumedan, leaning back in his armchair with one knee crossed over the other and his nose in the air, looked on disdainfully. "Oh, if you like fireworks, princess," said he. And the next night all the will-o'-the-wisps in the country came and danced on the plain, which could be seen from the princess's windows, and as she was looking out and rather enjoying the sight, up sprang a frightful volcano, pouring out smoke and flames which terrified her greatly, to the intense amusement of a enchanter, who laughed like a pack of wolves quarrelling. After this, as many of the will-o'-the-wisps as could get in crowded into Potentilla's garden. Master of missing the point, really. Like, why did you scare her there and then enjoy that? Ugh. One thing if you did that and you didn't mean to, but then like you're like, oh, look at her scared. Fuck you. And anyway, and by their light, the will-o'-the-wisps in the garden, the tall yew trees danced minuets until the princess was weary and begged to be excused from looking at anything more that night. But in spite of Potentilla's efforts to behave politely to the tiresome old enchanter, whom she detested, he could not help seeing that he failed to please her, and then he began to suspect very strongly that she must love someone else, and that somebody besides Melinette was responsible for all the festivities he had witnessed. So after much consideration, he devised a plan for finding out the truth. Dude, it's the man you were right there. What? How are you this? Oh, alright, Ghosty, you go ahead. It's alright. The VODs will be up as soon as I remember. Should be fine. No, I'll probably only post them on Friday just because I maybe have an early day again tomorrow, but we'll find out. Okay, YouTube, yes. What is the princess? I'm trying to find my place again. There's very thick paragraphs, so you can lose yourself quickly in here. So after much consideration, he devised a plan for finding out the truth. He went to the princess suddenly and announced that he was most unwillingly forced to leave her and had come to bid her farewell. Potentilla could scarcely hide her delight when she heard this, and his back was hardly turned before she was entreating Prince Narcissus to make himself visible once more. The poor prince had been getting quite thin with anxiety and annoyance, and was only too delighted to comply with her request. Everybody saying good night. Very nice. Do that. They greeted one another rapturously, and were just sitting down to talk over everything cozily and enjoying the enchanter's discomfiture together, when he burst in a fury from behind a bush. With his huge club, he aimed a terrific blow at Narcissus. Oh no! Which must have certainly have killed him, but for the adroitness of adroitness? Adroit? I know it's adroit. adroitness of the fairy Melinette, who arrived upon the scene just in time to snatch him up and carry him off at lightning speed to her castle in the air. Poor Potentilla, however, had not the comfort of knowing this, for at the sight of the enchanter threatening her beloved prince, she had given one shriek and fallen back insensible. When she recovered her senses, she was more than ever convinced that he was dead, since Melinette was no longer near her, and no one was left to defend her from the odious old enchanter. Yes, that is it. You are correct, Tetrahedron. Can you please type out phonetically how I should say that, if you know? Because I'm not sure, at least in an English accent. So okay. Damn. The fairy saved the boy, but that means that the girl is stuck with this old man that's an asshole. Oh no. To make matters worse, he seemed to be in a very bad temper. He did just try and kill somebody, and came blustering and raging at the poor princess. Oh no. I'll tell you what it is, madam, said he, whether you love this whippersnapper. Oh my god, he literally called the prince a whippersnapper. He is like at least 70. Whether you love this whippersnapper prince or not doesn't matter in the least. You are going to marry me, so you may as well make up your mind to it. And I'm going away this very minute to make all the arrangements. But in case you should get into any mischief in my absence, I think I had better put you to sleep. So saying, he waved his wand over her, and in spite of her utmost efforts to keep awake, she sank into a profound and dreamless slumber. Damn it. As he wished to make what he considered a suitable entry into the king's palace, he stepped outside the princess's little domain, and mounted upon an immense chariot with great solid wheels, and shafts like the trunk of an oak tree, but all of solid gold. Kind of like adroitness, I believe. So I should pronounce adroitness, like that. What a word. Solid gold chariot, that's right. This was drawn with great difficulty by 48 strong men. A second. Okay, deal. So he's got 48 strong oxen. I misread that. Still 48. Why not just do 50? Just round it out. Anyway, and the enchanter reclined at his ease, leaning upon his huge club, and holding carelessly upon his knee a tawny African lion, as if it had been a little lapdog. Wow, okay then. It was about 7 o'clock in the morning when this extraordinary chariot reached the palace gates. The king was already astir and about to set off on a hunting expedition. Wait a minute, so it was late at night. Adroitness, yes. But I am still to pronounce even the O-I. Anyway, never mind. It was late at night when he was pestering her, and then he realized, and then very quickly it is 7 in the morning? Or how long did he take his chariot around? Anyway. Okay, well thank you, Tetra. Okay, it's in the morning, and he gets to the gates. The king was already astir and about to set off on a hunting expedition. As for the queen, she had only just gone off into her first sleep, and it would have been a bold person indeed who ventured to wake her. I like that little, that sort of like look into the queen being a grumpy person needing to sleep, and her being such a party animal. It's fun. Anyway, the king was greatly annoyed at having to stay and see a visitor at such a time, and pulled off his hunting boots again with many grimaces. Meantime, the enchanter was stumping about in the hall, crying, "Where is the king? Let him be told. I must see him and his wife also." The king, who was listening at the top of the staircase, thought this was not very polite. However, he took counsel with his favorite huntsman, and, following his advice, presently went down to see what was wanted of him. He was struck with astonishment at the sight of the chariot, and was gazing at it when the enchanter strode up to him, exclaiming, "Shake hands, Cloverleaf, old fellow. Don't you know me?" "No, I can't say I do," replied the king, somewhat embarrassed. "Why, I am Grumedan the enchanter," said he, "and I am come to make your fortune. Let us come in and talk things over a bit." Thereupon he ordered the oxen to go about their business, and they bounded off like stags, and were out of sight in a moment. Then, with one blow of his club, he changed the massive chariot into a perfect mountain of gold pieces. "Oh, jeez. Those are for your lackeys," said he to the king, "that they may drink my health." Naturally, a great scramble ensued, and at last the laughter and shouting awoke the queen, who rang for her maids to ask the reason of such an unwonted hurry-blurry. Hurry-blurry. When they said that a visitor was asking for her, and then proceeded each one to tell breathlessly a different tale of wonder, in which she could only distinguish the words oxen, gold, club, giant, lion, she thought they were all out of their minds. Meanwhile, the king was asking the enchanter to what he was indebted for the honor of this visit, and on his replying that he would not say until the queen was also present, messenger after messenger was dispatched to her to beg her immediate attendance. But Frivola was in a very bad humor at having been so unceremoniously wakened, and declared that she had a pain in her little finger, and that nothing should induce her to come. "Oh, I simply can't. My pinky hurts." When the enchanter heard this, he insisted that she must come. Oh no. "Take my club to Her Majesty. That does not sound like a good way to start," said he, "and tell her that if she smells the end of it, she will find it wonderfully reviving." This is even weirder. "Oh no, I broke a nail." Yes, I must sleep it off. Anyway, so four of the king's strongest men-at-arms staggered off with it, and after some persuasion the queen consented to try this novel remedy. She had hardly smelt it for an instant when she declared herself to be perfectly restored, but whether that was due to the scent of the wood or to the fact that as soon as she touched it out fell a perfect shower of magnificent jewels, I leave you to decide. I was going to say that it must be smelling salts, but no, bribery. At any rate, she was now all eagerness to see the mysterious stranger, and hastily throwing on her royal mantle, popped her second best diamond crown over her nightcap, put a liberal dab of rouge upon each cheek, and holding up her largest fan before her nose, for she was not used to appearing in broad daylight, she went mincing into the great hall. This queen is, she's awful for what she did to her daughter, but she is an icon otherwise. The enchanter waited until the king and queen had seated themselves upon their throne, and then, taking his place between them, he began solemnly, "My name is Grumedan. I am an extremely well-connected enchanter. My power is immense. In spite all this, the charms of your daughter Potentilla have so fascinated me that I cannot live without her. She fancies that she loves a certain contemptible puppy named Narcissus, but I have made very short work with him. I really do not care whether you consent to my marriage with your daughter or not, but I am bound to ask your consent on account of a certain meddling fairy called Melinette, with whom I have reason for wishing to keep on good terms." The king and queen were somewhat embarrassed to know what answer to make to this terrible suitor, but at last they asked for some time to talk over the matter, since, they said, their subjects might think that the heir to the throne should not be married with as little consideration as a dairymaid. "Oh, take a day or two if you like," said the enchanter, "but in the meantime I am going to send for your daughter. Perhaps you will be able to induce her—" "Oh, I am so sorry." "You will be able to induce her to be reasonable." So saying, he drew out his favorite whistle, and blew one ear-piercing note, whereupon the great lion, who had been dozing in the sunny courtyard, came bounding in on his soft, heavy feet. "Orion," said the enchanter, "go and fetch me the princess, and bring her here at once. Be gentle now." Yeah, 'cause that's definitely not going to scare her that got scared by the volcano lights and all that. Frickin' dude. At these words, Orion went off at a great pace, and was soon at the other end of the king's gardens, scattering the guards right and left. He cleared the wall at a bound, and seizing the sleeping princess, he threw her on to his back, where he kept her by holding her robe in his teeth. Then he trotted gently back, and in less than 5 minutes stood in the great hall before the astonished king and queen. The enchanter held his club close to the princess's charming nose, whereupon she woke up and shrieked with terror at finding herself in a strange place with the detested Grumedan. Yeah, she's been raised outside, so she has no idea what her castle even looks like inside. Wow. Okay. Frivola the queen, stood by, stiff with displeasure at the sight of the lovely princess, now stepped forward, with much pretended concern, proposed to carry off Potentilla to her own apartments, that she might enjoy the quiet she seemed to need. Really, her one idea was to let the princess be seen by as few people as possible, so throwing a veil over her head, she led her away and locked her up securely. All this time, Prince Narcissus, gloomy and despairing, was kept a prisoner by Melinette in her castle in the air, and in spite of all the splendor by which he was surrounded, and all the pleasures which he might have enjoyed, his one thought was to get back to Potentilla. The fairy, however, left him there, promising to do her very best for him, and commanding all her swallows and butterflies to wait upon him and do his bidding. One day, as he paced sadly to and fro, he thought he heard a voice he knew calling to him, and sure enough, there was the faithful Philomel, Potentilla's favorite, who told him all that had passed, and how the sleeping princess had been carried off by the lion to the great grief of all her 4-footed and feathered subjects, and how, not knowing what to do, he had wandered about until he heard the swallows telling one another of the prince who was in their airy castle, and had come to see if it could be Narcissus. The prince was more distracted than ever, and tried vainly to escape from the castle by leaping from the roof up into the clouds, but every time they caught him, and rolling softly up, brought him back to the place from which he started. So at last he gave up the attempt and waited with desperate patience for the return of Melinette. Meanwhile, matters were advancing rapidly in the court of King Cloverleaf, for the queen quite made up her mind that such a beauty as Potentilla must be got out of the way as quickly as possible. She sent for the enchanter secretly, and after making him promise that he would never turn herself and King Cloverleaf out of their kingdom, and that he would take Potentilla far away, so that never again might she set eyes upon her, she arranged the wedding for the next day but one. You may imagine how Potentilla lamented her sad fate, and entreated to be spared. All the comfort she could get out of Frivola was that if she preferred a cup of poison to a rich husband, she would certainly provide her with one. Holy shit, that is a bad mama. When then the fatal day came, the unhappy Potentilla was led into the great hall between the king and queen, the latter with envy at the murmurs of admiration which rose up on all sides at the loveliness of the princess. An instant later, in came Grumedan by the opposite door. His hair stood on end, and he wore a huge bag purse and a cravat tied in a bow. His mantle was made of a shower of silver coins with a lining of rose color, and his delight in his own appearance knew no bounds. That any princess could prefer a cup of poison to himself never for an instant occurred to him. Nevertheless, that was what did happen, for when Queen Frivola in jest held out the fatal cup to the princess, she took it eagerly, crying, "Ah, beloved Narcissus, I come to thee," and was just raising it to her lips when the window of the great hall burst open, and the fairy Melinette floating in on a glowing sunset cloud, followed by the prince himself. All the court looked on in dazzled surprise, while Potentilla, catching sight of her lover, dropped the cup and ran joyfully to meet them. Whew, close call. The enchanter's first thought was to defend himself when he saw Melinette appear, but she slipped round his blind side and, catching him by the eyelashes, youch, dragged him off to the ceiling of the hall, where she held him kicking for a while, just to give him a lesson, and then, touching him with her wand, she imprisoned him for 1,000 years in a crystal ball which she hung from the roof. Ooh. Let this teach you to mind what I tell you another time, she remarked severely. Then, turning to the king and queen, she begged them to proceed with the wedding, since she had provided a much more suitable bridegroom. Nice job. She also deprived them of their kingdom, for they had really shown themselves unfit to manage it. To be fair, the king wasn't so awful, but, yeah, that queen needs out, and he really just let it happen. And bestowed the kingdom, upon the prince and princess, who, though they were unwilling to take it, had no choice but to obey the fairy. However, they took care that the king and queen were always supplied with everything they could wish for. Prince Narcissus and Princess Potentilla lived long and happily, beloved by all their subjects. As for the enchanter, I don't believe he has been let out yet. We haven't gotten to 1,000 years yet, so yeah, we shouldn't. But wow! Okay, the end. That was Prince Narcissus and Princess Potentilla. Wow. Okay. Y'all drop your comments and your requests for the triggers. I'll just get a quick drink of water and stretch. I'll leave my avatar up, but I'll be right here watching. Mic off for a second. Alright, we can do the glass bottle first. You ready for bed? Yeah. Alright. Thanks for joining us, Cage. I'm just finding out I might need to leave earlier than normal, so it is a very inconsistent little life I'm about to live this week. But okay. Have a good night, Cage, and I'll set up glass bottle tappings, and we might need to end in a little bit, unfortunately, I know, but I'll still do a little bit of ASMR triggers for sure. Here we go. tonight. We'll do page ruffles, and yeah, I think I will be ending early tonight. And I'm sorry to do that, especially with all of you raiders in. I want to keep going, but I have another job to be doing tomorrow. I normally don't do anything the next days, but so I should have been able to stay up very late, but I have to be up an unclear amount of early, and that means that I have to get up in the middle of the night to double check when I have to get up, which means even less sleep because I'll interrupt myself. Ugh. But okay, so we'll do page ruffling, and I can do a few more. I'll say that I'll stick around for max 20 more minutes. So you have 20 minutes. That's your max. Okay. Page ruffling. We'll start with the little book. It has a different sound from the big one. As if I was actually reading it? Sure, I can do that now. I also have the big book I was about to move over to, so we'll try those on the big book. You just specify what you want. Okay, that was the little book. So for the flipping, then I will start with flipping of the big book and not ruffling it. But tell me if you like ruffling, and I'll change the name to slash flipping. I'm sorry, I need to not talk into the mic. Okay, that was the page ruffling after the page flipping. There you go. Alright, I'm just gonna move that out. There. I need to have something in there for now. We ought to, but I'd only be able to stay for a very short time, and I don't particularly want to raid in and then immediately leave. But I would like to send you guys all somewhere. I wouldn't know where. Actually, you know what? I think there is one person. Let's look. Oh no, not on. Darn. Who do you have in mind, Fetster? Alright, let's go with this. There. Then I think we shall. We're gonna read. But then I'm going to have to leave very quickly, so all of you give the love that you can. Yeah, let's go. We're going to Niben. Thank you for dropping the read 1 and 2. Yes, very useful. Alright. Alright. Here we go. Oh, thank you guys. Oh, I forgot to do the end credit. Oh, I'm too tired. Let's go.